Hey, there we go. Okay, cool. So that should now be working. Starting to anyway. It says we are live. Ah, there we go. Okay, continuing on. So to go over what was missed in the stream, just put the power board back in and the audio board. I did clean up a lot of the alkali corrosion that was on the board or on the inside of the shell here on this shielding coating, and unfortunately, there's just some oxidization of it that didn't really just come up with the vinegar. So it's not going to hurt anything. So we'll just leave it as is to keep things going. So got all this back in. I cleaned up the contacts here, cleaned up the battery compartment, put everything back in place, soldered the wires back on, and now we and replace the screen lens with a new one. I'm gonna leave the plastic on for my friend to peel off when she gets this back. And now we're gonna put the shield here back on. Interesting to note, the original Japanese model, and also these caps are a little too tall, so they don't sit flush against it. It doesn't really hurt anything, but such as it is. But yeah, the Japanese model or the original Japanese model of the Game Gear doesn't have this I/O shield, and it also doesn't have this this coating on the inside to provide a kind of an extra ground plane and shield the entire system. Actually, this is actually going to get in the way of the EXT port there on the board. I'm actually going to cut this off. Try to anyway. Jeez. Oh, somebody's gonna get on to me for doing this. There we go. If you ever take this apart again, be careful. Oh, I need to finish screwing that one down. There we go. So now we have it there. Yeah, so the shielding was basically added to make sure that it passed FCC. Since the US, of course, got the Game Gear later than Japan did. All of the early Japanese models that I've come across, though, have very, very, very bad capacitor leakage. Most of the US ones, I don't see actual leaked capacitors. They've just dried up, or they've, just quit working as originally intended. Which happens. I mean, they can do that without bulging or without even leaking. Our PC Engine's capacitors were like that. If you threw an oscilloscope on them, ran power through it, they would ring like crazy. You get all sorts of power ripple, which is exactly what the capacitors are supposed to filter out. So okay, so shield's back in. That's cool. Is that? That's actually all that needs to be done initially for this side, because everything else goes in on the top side here on the screen. So this is going to get tucked in here. This is going to connect to the audio board for the speaker. Okay. We also have this bit right here. This is the dust seal. It goes around the screen. Helps to keep dust from getting in. It's obviously not 100% effective. See anything there? Okay, I'm gonna, where's that? There it is. Go ahead and clean off the screen here. Make sure it's not smudged. Okay, it's about as good as it's gonna get. Then take the whole thing and we put it in like so. Make sure that dial goes through there. Okay. Crank those down. There we go. So yeah, that goes to power board. That goes to the audio board. Let's go ahead and screw in the other screws. This is the one that was so horribly corroded from this corner right here. Oops. Come back here. There we go. Darn. Darn. Hang on. The speaker cable has a tendency to do this. Go ahead. Pull that back up. And we'll do both of them. Always have to double check that this thing is out where you can get to it. There you go. Perfect. There. Okay, starting over. Screw there. Lock these down. So my only real concern with this, because everything else looked clean and the recap procedure itself went well, the only concern I have is that guy, because how it was covered in corrosion like that, and the cap right next to it here had burst. So I'm hoping that chip is okay. If not, I will end up just replacing the board with a spare. I'll basically just desolder all these capacitors and just put them on the new board. Be a much quicker process than having to reform all the leads and everything from scratch. Oops. And then I'll just use this as a parts board later if I need to. Go. And that's it. Whatever, stay. So we have the back here. Go ahead and let's plug this guy in right here. This one in and this one in here. Okay. And then we close it up. Like so. I'm going to go ahead and put a few of the screws in just to hold it together while we test. I'm going to do these two. I think I'm going to do the security screw here at the top. Remember, these screws were tight when they were coming out before, and they're pretty much just as tight going in. So gotta take it slow and steady. There we go. There's that. Okay. All right, next. Do this real quick. Go ahead and clean off the cartridge here. Just to make sure. Because like the like the NES or any other cartridge, the contacts get dirty. They end up, you end up with weirdness in the game and the system. The contacts look pretty clean. Yeah. I should have done this before I screwed stuff back together. But good thing about these systems, unlike the NES, music went away, is that the act of inserting and removing the cartridges, like so, actually helps keep the contacts clean. Otherwise, with the NES, they had that whole zero insertion force bit, so you would have one side of the contacts that did get that kind of scrubbing motion, but the top side of the contacts, when you push the cartridge down, they would go up to contact the other contacts on the cartridge connector, and those would get corroded and dirty, as well as the top row of contacts on the NES card, and that's what caused a lot of the blinking issues. So let's see. Well, we can leave the. Oh no. Sigh. I got a little too carried away. I can't believe I did that. Parts are staring at me right here. Here's the button contacts here, just sitting on the board looking at me. Damn it. Oh, so I'm sure you've noticed there's also a these contacts here, obviously behind the start A and B and the D-pad. Those, of course, connect with here for the D-pad, and then here for the buttons to provide structural support when you're pushing buttons and such. But they're conductive here because, as I don't remember if I mentioned before we got the stream working again, this coating, because normally, original Game Gears from Japan just had this gray, just the gray plastic. They didn't have this coating. The coating was added as shielding and also as an extra ground plane, which is often used for shielding. So these actually contact the shell itself on the inside. And it's an electrical connection to provide, as much of a ground plane as possible. Apparently I didn't unscrew that one enough. Oops. I didn't really think too much of all this until I worked on the old Japanese model, and it was just like, it blew my mind because it was so different. So D-pad goes here. Buttons. Oh, D-pad does not go here yet. This goes here first. Yeah. I cleaned it up. This white stuff, it just scratches on the plastic. It's normal. You can't get rid of it. You'll wash it, and it'll look like it'll go away. And as soon as it dries, it's back. Okay. There's that. Then we have buttons, which are shaped in a way that you basically can't put them in wrong. It's like this goes here. Even though technically you think these two buttons are interchangeable, it's not how they designed it. In fact, they even go in a certain orientation. Like, I can't put this in this way. It doesn't work. It has to go in that way. So there we go. There. Fortunately, these don't matter. If you notice, you probably can't see, but there's tiny little divots in the sides on each one of these. And same for here. Between each pad and to the outside there is, and that's to prevent it from basically suction cupping to the board. Okay. Oh, let's get speaker cable out of the way again. I hope it stays. Okay. Bingo. There we go. Okay. Screw it back down. Another thing to note about, especially if you're looking at mods and such for the Game Gear, there are two, technically three, but there are two really major type of screen mods that get done. One is the McWill mod, which is expensive, but replaces the Game Gear's screen entirely with a modern LCD screen. Unfortunately, it's of a different resolution. It's the 320 by 240 resolution, or roundabouts, whereas the Game Gear screen is much smaller in as far as terms of resolution, and it doesn't scale correctly to the higher resolution. It's a non-integer division when you do the scaling, so it can look weird. Fortunately, the McWill's screen controller has a scanline mode that does vertical scan lines, and what that does is it kind of simulates the kind of the vertical pixel rows and whatnot that you get on the original Game Gear screen. It also has the side effect of masking a lot of the scaling artifacts, so it actually looks pretty good. It didn't when I initially was looking at the mod some years back, but it's improved a whole lot since then. The other is just a, make sure that's good. Actually, let me go ahead and hit the cartridge slot while I'm here. Oh, here it is. The other one I mentioned is there's a backlight mod that you can do, and what it does is it actually replaces this entire backlight assembly. I mean, you have to remove these components and remove this whole thing, and it's a massive undertaking. You actually have to remove the diffuser from the screen as well, which is very dangerous. You run the risk of cracking your screen very, very easily. I actually did this on one that I was working on, and in order to repair that, in replacing the screen, it's a fairly massive undertaking. Not one I recommend. However, it does also improve your battery life significantly. We're talking, I mean, it takes the your typical 3 hours, maybe 4 hours of battery life, and at least doubles it because it's just a row of 5 LEDs, and it just the diffuser that it comes with is basically a little panel. It's like, and then yeah, so I mean it helps your battery last a long time. It doesn't improve the screen quality any, however, because you're still using the original screen. It's very inexpensive. It's like $15, but you risk it's a much greater risk of damaging your system using it. You have to remove the diffuser. You actually have to cut the sides of the diffuser off and reuse them as mounting brackets, which are unfortunately, it actually makes the whole assembly is actually a little thicker than the stock screen and diffuser combination. So it's really a mess. I mean, you have to try to align the screen manually because there's no real bracket that keeps it in place. It's very, very difficult, and I don't recommend it. If the system or if the mod came with a custom bracket to hold the screen in place and center it and everything, and to hold the diffuser in place, I mean, it would cost a little bit more, maybe $25. or so. But that would actually be well worth it. I mean, oh, that would be so worth it. And I would actually do backlight mods again. I haven't done a backlight mod in ages because of that. I kind of swore off doing the backlight mods after I cracked the screen doing one. No, I probably shouldn't be putting all the screws in, but I'm already most of the way there, so. All right. And the moment of truth. Nickel metal hydride rechargeable AA's. The inner loops are fantastic. And if you're going to be playing Game Gear for any length of time, investing in a set is really, really worth it. They often go on sale on Amazon, and you can just grab them there. Power was on. Okay. And there we go. Can't really see it. Might have been able to hear that. Yeah, it works perfectly. Screen's nice and bright. Volume is loud and sound is very clear. There you have it. Clean up, recap, and it works perfectly. Thanks for watching.